During this video presentation, I'll be talking through with you the full responsibilities of a coach in all different sports. The first responsibility of a coach that I'm going to highlight is health and safety. This is always a key responsibility of a coach when managing a coaching session to ensure full safety of the athletes. When working with anyone under the age of 18, a coach takes on the responsibility of having a duty of care. This is a legal obligation imposed on an individual, requiring that they follow to a standard of reasonable care while performing any acts that could possibly harm others. All sports coaches may benefit massively from obtaining a first aid course. This is to ensure that if anything were to happen to one of their athletes, they would know what action to take without having to rely on the help of a parent or possibly phoning a paramedic. Obviously, coaches might not be fully trained in physiotherapy, so they might not know the solution to everything, but having that basic knowledge in first aid ensures that the athletes would be in the hands of someone that knows what procedures to go through if anything was to happen. This may also appear more professional and reassuring to the parents, knowing that they are leaving their son or daughter in safe hands. This is especially important in a sport like rugby, for example, due to how rough it is, therefore increasing the likelihood of injury. Additionally, it's important for coaches to have a clear knowledge on how to use equipment in their sport correctly and safely. This is to make sure that when athletes come to using it, the coach can give them clear instructions and demonstrations to avoid them hurting themselves when using it themselves. A perfect example of this is in gymnastics. This is because of the vast range of equipment that is used in gymnastics, for example the parallel bars, the pommel horse, the rings, trampolines, etc. etc. Therefore, a gymnastic coach must have thorough knowledge on how to use each piece of apparatus correctly in order to be able to replicate that knowledge onto their gymnasts to avoid them getting injured or hurt. Another huge part of making sure that gymnasts know how to use the apparatus safely and correctly is by the coach speaking clearly to make sure that everyone understands and listens. If the coach doesn't speak clearly and makes it seem unimportant, then some gymnasts might get distracted, not listen to what the coach has to say, and then when it comes to performing on the parallel bars, they might fall off and break their arm. Speaking clearly and giving easy to understand instructions is also important if you are an instructor of an outdoor adventure class. This is because of the potential amount of risk that people could be in if instructions aren't followed safely and done correctly. For example, before going abseiling, whether it's off a wall or off a cliff, it's essential that the instructor gets everyone's attention and takes them through the safety procedures of what they have to do. Finally then, the last key factor to ensure that a coach is looking after the health and safety of his athletes is by completing what's called a risk assessment. On the risk assessment, a coach simply notes down all the potential hazards during the training session. This will then allow them to come up with ways of controlling the hazards. So, for example, an athletics coach might be taking a session on javelin. One example of a hazard might be athletes being hit by the javelins. Therefore, as a control, the coach might make sure that everyone throws at the same time and collects together to make sure that nobody is collecting when someone else is throwing. The use of a risk assessment is a reliable way of ensuring that athletes' health and safety is kept under control in all sports, not just athletics. The second responsibility of being a coach is ensuring that everyone receives an equal opportunity to play and compete. By this I mean that everyone should have an equal right to participate no matter what gender they are, religion, race, whether they have any disabilities, and finally their socio-economic status. A big duty and responsibility of being a coach is to make sure that they don't exclude people from taking part based on these different factors I've just listed. A competent coach will ensure that equal opportunity is given to all athletes. One way this can be done is simply by the coach taking control of the situation and opening up clubs for people with disability, for example. A sporting example could be a tennis coach setting up an hour-and-a-half session each week for partially blind people to encourage people with disability that don't have much option for them in sport to go out and take part. Without the coach's effort and dedication to improving the equal opportunities for the different factors I have shown on the screen, then it won't be possible at all. Also, for non-disabled people, coaches should not be prejudiced at all when it comes to letting people join in training sessions based on their age, gender, religion, etc., etc. All coaches need to be able to adapt their coaching technique and way of being with everyone. For example, a swimming coach would need to change how he treats his 18 and under performance swimming team compared to his under 10s beginners class. This is due to both classes obviously being at completely different levels, meaning that the coach would have to adapt his coaching style to ensure that he doesn't come across too strict and harsh with kids that are just learning to swim. Coaches also shouldn't refuse to teach certain classes because it's of a lower standard. A coach should be open to teaching anyone the sport they teach as a profession, no matter who the group are. They need to allow everyone to have an equal amount of opportunity as everyone else. The third responsibility of a coach is having professional conduct. A coach having good conduct is all about the manner in which a coach behaves and treats others, and then being professional means that they behave in the way that is expected of them due to sport coaching being their profession, which is something they get paid to do. A coach having professional conduct is a way of making sure that they stick to the basic guidelines of being a coach. For example, a coach should always promote honesty and fair play in everything they do. They should always be teaching their performers how to behave when it comes to competing, but also how they treat their peers in training as well. Without a coach disciplining his athletes to show fair play then it will lead to athletes thinking it's alright to being aggressive towards the ref in football, for example, or being aggressive to the opposition. This is a really crucial part of having professional conduct because it ensures that athletes will behave respectfully and fairly in all situations. The second key factor of having professional conduct is being prepared and ready for training sessions. A coach's job is to train, help and improve other people in that certain sport, so a huge part of this is turning up to sessions with a structured plan of what drills they're going to do during the session. If a rugby coach turns up to training with no structure of what they're going to do during a session, because unless they are highly skilled at thinking on the sport, then it will become highly obvious to the players and parents that they haven't planned for the session. This is obviously showing really poor professional conduct and is also really disrespectful because the parents are being paid money as their profession to improve athletes. So the least they should do is be prepared of some drills that they want to do to improve the performers. Another factor of professional conduct is dressing the part and wearing the correct attire. It seems like quite a petty one, but a sports coach should dress correctly to suit their profession. If a netball coach was to turn up to training wearing jeans and a leather jacket, it would look highly unprofessional. Just because coaches aren't obliged to wear a suit and tie every day or a dress, it doesn't mean that they can wear what they want. Having a profession in sport means that a coach should wear sporting attire when coaching. Additionally, a coach showing professional conduct should treat all athletes equally regardless of age, gender, ability, etc., etc. For example, a basketball coach taking a basketball session shouldn't just focus all his attention on the players that are high ability, because then the people that aren't so able won't get a chance to improve and might start to feel like they aren't good enough. Also, a coach shouldn't make stereotypical judgments when teaching girls and boys, because that isn't professional at all. For example, a rugby coach shouldn't think that girls can't play contact rugby because it's too physical, and also a ballet coach, for example, shouldn't put down boys for wanting to do it. I believe that treating everyone equally as a sports coach is one of the most important factors of behaving with professional conduct, because it ensures that everyone has a chance to take part in sport without feeling judged or being frowned upon. A coach is paid to coach everyone, meaning that everyone should be coached and treated with the same respect and commitment. The final brief factor of professional conduct is a coach having the correct qualifications to teach the sport they have. to teach the sport they have a profession in to receive the amount of money to live off. For example, a tennis coach should have their coaching qualifications before they take part as a tennis coach. Finally then, the final responsibility of a sports coach is following the legal obligations. Coaches are expected to follow some unwritten rules as part of being a coach, but they are also expected to follow aspects of the law as well to ensure child safety and protection. Children can be introduced to sport at a very early age, meaning that coaches must be aware of the child protection procedures. For starters, prior to working with any children, a coach must be the subject of a CRB check to check the criminal records of potential employees. This is to ensure that a coach isn't taking someone into the team that has a past record of child abuse or mistreating children. Any previous convicts will be listed and a decision will be made about whether they are able to work with younger kids after they have viewed the CRB check. The majority of people with any kind of criminal record that includes being on the sex offenders list or any past violent crime will not be seen as appropriate for working with younger kids to ensure maximum safety for them. Moreover, a coach must be aware of the Child Protection Act of 2004. This act was set up for services that work with children, like sports coaches for example, to improve their health, development and well-being. It ensures that coaches must be able to spot any forms of child abuse, which include physical, sexual, emotional and neglect. As all coaches have a duty of care for their athletes, any concern they have, whether it's seeing regular marking on children, which wouldn't have been caused from the sport, looking really skinny and pale, or being poorly dressed on a really cold winter's evening, should be reported to a designated child protection officer at the sports centre or school. This obviously needs to be done with real care to ensure there are no false accusations and also not scare any athletes. For example, if a hockey coach was informed by one of their players that they are experiencing abuse or they obtain information which could indicate a child is being abused, the coach must make sure that they react calmly so they don't scare the child, reassure the child that everything is going to be okay, make a full record and also make sure they don't promise the child that they aren't going to tell anyone. Anything that may cause suspicion should be reported due to the coach having a duty of care for the child. They teach and have a big responsibility ensuring the well-being of all of their athletes.